Okay, so I think we can start. So thank you all for joining. My name is Alex Duef Cohen, and I'm VP Client Strategy at FreeMind. Today, I'm very excited to host this webinar and introduce two outstanding program managers from the CDMRP. So first, Dr. Amie Bunker, who serves as program manager for the melanoma research program at CDMRP, supporting biomedical research in the field of melanoma. In her role, she oversees the program strategy and execution, including developing funding opportunities, managing the review process, and evaluating the impact of the research portfolio. And joining her is Dr. Sagar Ghosh, who serves as the Health Science Program Manager at the CDMRP. He oversees both the ovarian cancer research program and the rare cancer research program, leading everything from investment strategy and funding opportunities to proposal review and overall program impact. And with that, I'll turn to Dr. Bunker and Dr. Ghosh. Thank you again for being here.
There we go.
Thank you.
Of course, it's our pleasure. So I will go ahead and kick off with a little bit of an overview of CDMRP and what we stand for as an organization, and then I'll turn it over to Sagar after a few slides. So here at the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Programs, CDMRP, uh, we really truly value our mission to responsibly manage collaborative research that at the end of the day really intends to deliver healthcare solutions for service members, their families, veterans, and of course, the American public as a whole. And we really want to transform healthcare through innovative and impactful research. Uh, we really exist. We try to carve out our niche in the landscape of other government funders. So some of the ways that we do this, and some of the unique characteristics about us is that we began as a funding agency in 1992 in response to the breast cancer advocacy patient community who really wanted to see a different way of funding and executing biomedical research, particularly for breast cancer, and to have a truly noticeable impact and moving the field forward. Since then, we have grown beyond just breast cancer. For FY26, Sagar will touch into more detail about this, but we have 35 programs and about $1.7 billion in appropriations. So a couple of things that we really like to highlight as our hallmarks is that every year, for better or worse, we are dependent on Congress adding specific line items to set which programs will have funding that year and the amount of appropriations that will be specifically marked for those programs. Each program has an annual investment strategy meeting where the goal is to make sure that those funds are targeted to specific areas of need for each individual field and that we aren't competing with other funders and truly finding the areas that aren't already funded by other people and targeting those areas. We publicly compete all of our funding opportunities, and we really want to make sure that not only are we funding the best science based on technical merit of each proposal, but that the proposals that are recommended for funding are really meeting the intent of what the program wants to accomplish and each individual funding opportunity. Each program and the organization as a whole has essentially from its inception really touted the integration of the consumer which is CDMRP speak for patients, patient families, advocates of the different diseases, injuries, etc. The people who are really invested in seeing the fruits of the individual programs. Those are our consumers. We really value them as the true north of CDMRP. They have a say in identifying the needs and investment strategy of each program. They participate in our peer review processes, and then they also have a say in the final, which applications are finally recommended for funding at each level. Furthermore, we really try, there are several programs that even go so far and have their funding opportunities require or suggest that the patient advocate and consumer voice is implemented as part of the research team. In order to set our strategies and make sure that, again, each program is meeting the needs of the field at an optimal level, we also collaborate with other funders. So we bring into our programmatic panels people who represent nonprofits who fund in that each space, other government funders like the NIH, VA, and so on. So we really do put in a lot of effort to make sure we are meeting the needs of our fields. And one last point I'll point out on this slide is that all of our funding is obligated upfront. And so if an investigator receives an FY26 award for $1 million, then that, if the period of performance is 4 years, then that project is funded upfront with that full $1 million. And then the investigator will be able to use that money as appropriate over the next 4 years to complete the proposals. The CDMRP funds, we really make sure that we are having a meaningful impact for our stakeholders and the communities who are depending on the research, the outcomes of the research that we fund. To this, a couple of achievements that we like to highlight on this slide as for an organization as a whole is that our funded research has led to over 400 changes to clinical practice guidelines. Our research has contributed in some way, shape, or form to over 50 FDA approved or cleared products. We have thousands of investigators who have filed patents to protect the CDMRP funded work and other commercialized products. And of course, at the end of the day, we have tens of thousands of publications based off of our research who the other investigators can then use to their own advantage and advance as well. With this, I will turn it over to Sagar.
Sorry, I was kicked out. Can you hear me, Amie?
Yes, I can hear you.
I was kicked out. Okay. So thank you very much. It's a great opportunity to connect the external stakeholders, and we really appreciate. Amie already gave you a brief idea about how CDMRP works. I'll give you about the programmatic detail that what we are offering for FY26. In FY26, as you see in this slide, there are 34 different types of programs, and it's like all different types of diseases that we cover. Total budget is 1.27 billion. And there are different programs with different budget, say alcohol substance, which is only 4 million, whereas peer review medical research program, which is 370 million. So there is a huge range. Okay. So I'm 100% sure that you will find your favorite disease area or your topic area in among these programs. Next slide, please. So this slide shows you that how CDMRP is funding different research areas. Suppose the left side starts with the cancer. There are 9 designated cancer programs CDMRP offers, which includes breast cancer, kidney, lung, melanoma, ovarian, and many others. Other than that, there are 2 programs, peer-reviewed cancer, which includes 20 topic areas. I'll show you exactly which topic areas are those. and rare cancers. Rare cancers could be any kind of cancers, but that the definition for rare cancer research is 6 or less than 6 per 100,000 new cases per year in US. Other than the cancer programs, there are neuroscience, neurodegeneration, autoimmune disease, immunology, then trauma or injury-related programs, infectious disease programs, internal medicine, cardiovascular programs, even rare diseases. So it's a huge platter that CDMRP is offering to the research community. Next slide, please. It's a busy slide. I'm not going through entirely. If you want to get more information, go to our website. You'll find all detail about these programs. Now, PRCRP or peer-reviewed cancer research program. There are 20 different types of topic areas, which includes bladder cancer, blood cancer, brain, colorectal, glioblastoma, sarcoma, pediatric cancers, and all sort of. So the topic areas include in this program are annually identified by Congress. It may change from year to year. PRCRP focuses on funding research into exposures relevant to military that may lead to the development of these kind of cancers and or addressing research and patient care capability gaps. So we are actually trying to address two things. Number one is how we can help the patient or their family members or American people addressing these cancers, and also their beneficiaries and all to develop the capabilities. Other than that, another thing you'd like to remember that this program does not cover breast, ovarian, prostate, melanoma, kidney, lung, other standalone programs that CDMRP offers. Next slide, please. So this is the 6 different portfolios that PRCRP cancer areas are divided. Like blood cancers, there are 3 different types of blood cancers: gastroenterological cancers, neurological cancers, pediatric cancers, solid tumors, and metastatic. There are some overlap among these portfolios, but this is exactly what we are offering for FY26. Next slide, please. Just like PRCRP, which offers 20 cancer topic areas, peer-reviewed medical research program, which the budget is 370 million, this offers 52 topic areas in FY26. And the portfolios cover neuroscience, orthopedic medicine, infectious disease, cardiovascular, autoimmune disease, internal medicine, rare disease, and many others. So I'm not going to read all of them. If whenever you get a chance, please go to our website, PRMRP website, you will get more information. And these topic areas are also changed from year to year based on congressional approval. Next slide, please. Okay, so as Amie stated that our appropriation is annual. Each year we get our budgeted appropriation from Congress, and then we decide that what we are going to fund. So it all starts with a vision setting meeting at the early stage of the financial year. During that time, the program assesses the research landscape, funding landscape, and develops its investment strategy, that what they are going to fund. What are the different research capabilities, clinical gaps, what other organizations are funding, such as NIH, VA, FDA, and others. And based on that, we devise that what are the lacks, what are the gaps, and how we can fill those up. What are the emerging technologies, how we can impact the consumer or patient community, and different portfolio. Next slide. So this can give you an idea that how CDMRP offers different types of science. From left to right, you'll see it's starting from initial concepts, like something innovative, out of the box ideas. You do not need a whole lot of background, like preliminary data or something like that. Concept award, discovery awards. These are typically small appropriation, like 100 to 200K and 1 to 2 years. But what it's offering you to come up with an idea and then moving to the next step. Then is early or maturing ideas, then preclinical or translational science, then clinical science. I'll also show you which different programs are actually offering clinical trials. And team science, there are consortium, there are focus programs, there are translational partnership, and finally a research capability, which is virtual academy or new investigator, early career investigator kind of science. So there are all different types of science. It's not only the topic areas, but also different types of research that we are funding. Next slide, please. So here are two examples of the left side is early career investigators. There are 5 or 6 different programs offering virtual academy, where there are two pillars. One is the academy leaders. They help the scholars or young or investigators to build their career, not only career, I would say their scientific careers, in terms of in establishing network, identifying what are the needs in that particular area, and also train them. So there are ovarian cancer, kidney, peer-reviewed cancer, melanoma, and epilepsy. They are offering this kind of virtual academies. Other than that, few other programs like prostate, multiple sclerosis, peer-reviewed cancer, they offer early investigator funding. Other than that, we also offer clinical trials. There are tons of programs which offer clinical trials. Almost all cancer research programs, except I believe rare cancer, they offer clinical trial to some extent, which can be a small one, which can be a big one. Next slide, please. Okay, so other than that, there are broad relevance includes families focus on military elements and addressing DOW or Department of War priorities where possible. Not all the programs have this kind of requirement, like peer-reviewed cancer, PRMRP, they have it mandated, but not for rare cancer or few other programs. And also, as you can see in the examples, that there are service members are at 50% risk for ALS, compared with civilians deployed. Service members are twice likely to suffer from brain injury, and there are different diseases which are directly related to military population. So we are committed to the health and well-being of Department of War families, but also service members, their families, and also the entire American people. Next slide, please. Now, this is a map that you should keep in your mind when you are applying for CDMRP programs. CDMRP programs works very differently than NIH, VA, or other organizations, and you need to keep in mind that how you should follow those timeline. This is very important. As I mentioned, that stakeholders meetings is typically starts for a new program, but for each and every program, we start the financial year with vision setting, okay, where we decide what we are going to do for that particular year. So each program has individually tailored goals and a unique vision, because the needs and requirements for each program is different, which enables them to meet the specialized needs for their research and advocacy communities. CDMRP uses a very flexible program cycle for each congressional appropriation to accommodate all stages of this process, which starts with vision setting. Then after vision setting, we decide the funding opportunities or our investment strategy. Then the program announcements are released. We ask for pre-applications or LOI, letter of intent. And then if there is a pre-application which are screened, there is a deadline. Please go through our program announcement and you'll get all detail about this timeline. After the pre-applications are screened, we ask for the full applications, then it goes through the peer review process, and then next will be programmatic review. After programmatic review, the funds are recommended for, the applications are recommended for funding, and the funding non-fund or fund letters are actually distributed. Then the funding recommendation, after that, the negotiation starts. So this is kind of a cycle that we follow it each year. And remember one thing, that even though the budget is passed, unless and until the bill is signed, we cannot release our program announcement. For FY26, many of our programs are working on their funding opportunities right now. They are still holding it for some approval process. We are hopeful maybe early next month we'll be able to release at least some of them. Next slide, please. So this is a crucial slide that I would like you to remember when you are writing your application process. CDMRP has a very clear two-tier review process: peer review, programmatic review. Peer review is solely on the criteria-based scientific process. So as a researcher, as an applicant, make sure you go through our peer review section, understand what are the criteria, what we are looking for in each mechanism. Program to program, it varies. Mechanism to mechanism, there is a variation there. So if you are applying for a particular mechanism, you need to read very thoroughly what are the different criteria and what are the bullets under each criteria. Peer review we do not have a standing panel unlike NIH. We change it every year based on the kind of applications we receive. So the panel changes, but this is basically the technical merits. The second tier is, so after the peer review, we generate the scores, peer review scores or scientific scores, and summary statement, which goes to the programmatic reviewers. Programmatic reviewers, they read the summary statements, they go through the scientific scores, and they also read the abstracts mostly, and then they decide how to, which one to be funded. Now in programmatic review, they compare one application to another application. It's not those peer review bullets, right? They try to find out whether this application is appropriate in terms of the relevance of the program or whatever. We also have the programmatic criteria in program announcement. You'll get an idea if you read the program announcement thoroughly. So there are no pay line considered for portfolio balance because like a program like PRCRP or PRMRP, where there are 20 or 50 different topic areas, we cannot, in certain topic areas, we get a lot of applications, in certain we do not. So we cannot fund everything or all the applications in certain areas. Okay, we need to balance it. But we also keep this thing in mind that the scientific ground should be solid. The scientific score peer review should be solid to fund any application. So we do those kind of adjustment during the programmatic review process. I think that's all I have. Next, I think it's back to Amie.
Alrighty, thank you, Sagar. So I will be picking up with some overview of how to actually apply for our funding opportunities once they're released and some best practices. So for the funding opportunities, as I said, as Sagar said, they're not available yet. We're still waiting on some approval steps before any of our programs can release anything. However, in the interim, many of our programs, probably the majority at this point, have started to release what we call pre-announcements. And so this gives you an idea as potential applicants as to the types of funding opportunities that the program anticipates offering. They can provide you with some overview of the strategic goals of the program for that year. And for each of the funding opportunities that the program anticipates offering that year, you'll get an idea for the PI eligibility criteria, the overview of the intent of each funding opportunity, the dollar amounts associated, and the expected the maximum period of performance. So you won't find all of the details that you would need to put an application together, but you can start getting some planning in place and figuring out which of the opportunities you might be interested in pursuing once the full opportunities are in fact released. Once the opportunities are, so the pre-announcements are only found on the CDMRP website, but we do send out email blasts for each program once the program posts those on the website. When the full funding opportunities are in fact posted, they are officially posted on grants.gov, but they are also available on eBRAP and our CDMRP website. Some of our other funding opportunities, such as broad agency announcements, those will be posted on sam.gov, but very few programs, and I'm not sure if any are offering any broad agency announcements for FY26, but if they are, an email blast would get sent out and direct you to that. If you go to grants.gov, you can search for CDMRP funding opportunities by entering CFDA 12.420 into the search bar, and you'll be directed to any active CDMRP funding opportunities. Again, we don't have any of those right now, so you wouldn't get anything if you did that today, but you can keep that in mind. And so if you do once you decide that you want to apply for funding, Sagar touched on this a little bit, but it's a point that cannot be overstated, is that it really is important that you, as the applicant, when you are putting together your applications, that you understand the goals of the program, you understand the intent of the specific funding opportunity that you are applying to, and that you understand how that application is going to be reviewed for that funding opportunity. All of this information is clearly laid out in the funding opportunities once they're available. And these are standard sections across every program. And so we've tried very hard to streamline the content and make sure that the information in there is important for putting together an application. So we really cannot stress enough that at least once you really need to read the funding opportunity all the way through and then be able to start pulling out the important pieces of information as you're putting together the application. Our application process is a two-step process essentially, where you read the program announcement, step one. All of our funding opportunities require a pre-application. You cannot submit a full application if you do not submit a pre-application. There are two opportunities for this, two mechanisms for this, I believe Sagar mentioned, where you can either a funding opportunity will either require a letter of intent. These are for administrative purposes only. They are not reviewed. They are for things like facilitating reviewer recruitment. And again, even though they're not part of the review process, they are still required. And you must submit it by the stated deadline in the funding opportunity. Other funding opportunities require a pre-proposal. And pre-proposals do go through a screening process. And for mechanisms that have a pre-proposal with a screening process, investigators can only submit a full application if they are invited to do so. For these types of funding opportunities, if an investigator submits a full application without receiving an invitation, then that full application will just be rejected. So once you've been invited to submit a full application, or you have submitted a letter of intent, then you go on and prepare your full application. If you are an extramural organization, so that's basically anything that's not a government organization, then you will submit your full application through grants.gov. Any intramural applications, so these are going to be the definitions for these are going to be in the general application instructions if you need more clarification. But if you're basically an intramural being a government entity, then you would submit your full application through eBRAP. Again, the detailed instructions for submitting application through either portal are provided in our general application instructions. After submission of the full application, there is a verification period. So the full application deadline will be on one date, and then programs provide usually 3 to 7 days of a verification period. The exact length is at the discretion of the program, so pay attention to those dates carefully. But you will be able to change things like, oh, the PCPS wasn't, your support documents weren't accurate. Some of the attachments you'll be able to make modifications to. However, during this verification period, you cannot change the project narrative and you cannot change the budget. So if you need to make changes to those, all changes to the project narrative or the budget must occur before the full application deadline. As we're coming down to the home stretch, just wanted to give some strategies for success, and some of these are going to be reiterating points that Sagar I have already made. But number one, again, it's very important to make sure that your application is adhering to the program-specific goals. These, again, will be very clearly outlined at the top of each funding opportunity. And there are multiple programs that you think would excuse me, let me flip that around. If you think your research would be applicable to multiple programs and you're interested in applying to multiple programs, you are able to do so. However, be very careful that if a program, say 2 different programs offer an opportunity called an idea award, that idea award very well could look very different between the 2 programs. So you have to read each one carefully to make sure that you are addressing the specific needs of that program's idea award. High impact is very important for all of our programs and funding opportunities. So when you are putting together your application materials, it's really important that you are making the case for how your research outcomes, whether they're in the short term and or the long term, could impact the field in play. And it's really on you to make that case clearly. Don't rely on the reviewers to just know what you're talking about. Use your application materials, follow the instructions that are there, and really help connect those dots and make it easy for the people who are reading your application to see that. For mechanisms where innovation is important, so again, a lot of these are going to be those earlier hypothesis generating kinds of concepts, so an idea award, a discovery award, and so on. Again, it's really on you as the applicant and the investigator doing the research to sell the case, to convince the reviewers that this is truly innovative for the field, and how is it going to do that? How is it innovation? And again, this is nothing new, unique to CDMRP, but again, as the person writing the application, it's really on you to convince people that your research strategy is sound, that the experiments you're proposing you're capable of doing, and that it's feasible to do what you're proposing to do in your hands. When you are decide you want to submit an application, again, please make sure you're paying attention to the proposed deadlines. Each program, again, is going to release funding opportunities at different times. We're not like, say, the NIH, that every application has set schedules. So please sign up for our email blast so you can keep up with these timelines for each program. So make sure you're paying attention to which funding opportunities, which programs have deadlines at which times, and plan accordingly. And again, I've kind of already talked about the grantsmanship aspects of these things. So I mentioned in the chat while Sagar was presenting, and then have mentioned a few times before, but it's really important because of the differences between programs and the timing of the release of our funding opportunities is dependent on a number of external factors to CDMRP. So making sure that you're subscribed to email our listservs is really the best way to make sure you're on top of everything and don't miss important notifications and deadlines. So there are two main places that you can link to the subscription page. So if you go to the CDMRP website, there'll be a subscribe to funding opportunities and communications link at the middle of the page, more or less, middle to bottom of the page. And then if you go to ebrap.org, then you will be able to subscribe to email listservs from that page. And just about finally, we do have a couple of other informational videos that are available. And these are basically journey of application. It tells you more about our funding opportunities and where you can find them. And also a separate video talking about the two-tier review process. Sagar touched on that on one slide, but this video gives you a more deep take into the differences and complementarity between peer review and programmatic review. So if you have any questions, Sagar and I are happy to take them. And if you think of anything afterwards, you can go to our webpage. There's a link to our public affairs email, and you can always ask questions later. So,
Amie, there are a couple of questions there in chat. The first one is on musculoskeletal health subtopic in PRMRP. The person is asking for detail about this.
I had already answered that.
Oh, you are sorry. I didn't get a chance. What we are missing here.
And so yeah. So that was the only question that I addressed. That was the only one that came in before I was.
Okay. So then there is one gap identification with other funding sources. Does this mean an innovation that previously received NIH SBIR phase 1 will be at a disadvantage for CDMRP funding? Not necessarily. It all depends on what you are looking for. So in case of, as I mentioned, different programs offer different types of mechanisms, right? In some of them, those mechanisms which are completely innovative, we do not require any preliminary data. It is completely out of the box. But there are other mechanisms where we need certain feasibility data, or like if you have something from your lab or other lab, that will be great. If you have got funding from NIH, other funding agencies, got some great data, wonderful data, now you are going to move forward. There are those kind of mechanisms available. So you need to go through, first pick up your choice of program, then go to the website, and then in each program we have a separate websites, and then you can look for what kind of mechanism you are looking for, whether it is very early or like the next stage or translation or clinical trial. So based on that, you pick them up. So there is a question, reaching out program staff to discuss programmatic alignment or project scope and specific aims prior to submission. If so, how? Amie, you can address this question if you'd like.
Sorry. I was okay, so is there a way to reach out to program staff? Sorry, I was looking at trying to answer one of the other questions. So CDMRP does not make specific contact information, does not make contact information for specific program managers or personnel available publicly. We're not allowed to based off of uh, guidelines for posting information. However, two things. One, the funding opportunities contain all of the information that any applicant would need to know to successfully write and submit an application. And so the other reason that we don't publicly make available our contact information is that we don't want to give a competitive advantage to someone who does reach out and try to get more information based compared to someone who doesn't. So this is really meant to keep a fair playing field for everyone. But if you do have technical questions, you're having issues accessing things or things of that nature, you can reach out to the eBRAP help desk and they will help you with those kinds of technical questions. If you have technical questions about grants.gov, then you reach out to that help desk. If you wanted, you could try to reach out to the CDMRP Public Affairs email address, but for the most part, if you're having trouble finding where information is available, they might be able to point you into direction where that is available, but they're not going to give you more information than what is already available.
Yeah. And also read the program announcement. We try our best to incorporate everything in the program announcement. Hopefully you'll get all those information. There is another question that, yes, we are, most of our YouTube videos are removed for different reasons. I do not want to give a detail about that, but as a startup, can I submit multiple subtopics? Yes, you can. CDMRP funding are not restricted to only academics or anything. We are open to all. So first thing first, if you find out which program and what kind of mechanism. Most of the cases, we found that people are not able to pick up the right mechanisms and what are the intents. Please read that, the key intent in third page of the program announcement. That will give you a more idea that whether your proposal or your idea fits perfectly or not.
So just a point, so our YouTube videos have been taken down. However, there is a Defense Visual Information Distribution Service, DVIDS. And so all of our YouTube videos have been moved over to this service. And I dropped the links for the two specific Journey of an Application videos that I mentioned on the previous slide. Those links are in the chat. Pardon me for, that's a pretty recent development, so sorry for not getting the slide updated accordingly.
Thank you, Amie. Any other?
So if you're searching for the CFDA number on grants.gov, it is set up default to only show active funding opportunities. I don't have it pulled up specifically at this point, but in the past, if you play around with the search criteria, it should still pull up past funding opportunities if you use the CFDA 12.420. I've been able to do it before, like within the last couple of weeks, I was playing around with it. So sometimes that's just a setting thing. But we do also have on the CDMRP webpage, there are some archived. I know we pulled some things down but I think we do still have some past funding opportunities. So funding opportunities. So drop that link over here for you. So on the CDMRP webpage, I just put the link in the chat for what's available from previous fiscal years on the CDMRP webpage.
So if an innovation addresses colon cancer, screening procedure productivity, and musculoskeletal in physicians and nurses performing colon cancer screening procedures, can we submit to multiple topics? Yes, you can, but again, you need to first find out the programs. Like colon cancer is PRCRP. One of the topic area under PRCRP is colorectal cancer. You can actually pick that up. PRCRP is offering three different types of mechanisms this year. One is basic science, one is impact over translational science, another clinical trial. So based on what you are proposing, you need to pick that topic area. We haven't that mechanism. We haven't released the program announcement, but the pre-announcements are already out. Please look for the pre-announcement of PRCRP. You'll get an idea that like what are the eligibilities, what we are looking for in each mechanism, and what are the funding appropriation for all. Any other question?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Bunker, Dr. Ghosh. Thank you very much for this very insightful presentation. And thank you everyone for joining.
You're very welcome. Happy we could do so.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.